Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing Avenging Spirit on the Nintendo Switch. Now this game is a port of an arcade 2D action platformer, and it just released on July 29th of 2022 and currently sells for $5.99 on the Nintendo Switch eShop. The game was published by Radalaika Games and it has a download size of 49 megabytes. Now the question we have to ask is, does this game have enough spirit to survive in today's gaming landscape? Well, that's what we're going to figure out in today's review. Now remember, if you are enjoying the content, one of the best ways to support the channel, just hit that like button. So if we start with the storyline. Now the game starts out with your girlfriend being kidnapped and yourself being unfortunately murdered. However, your father-in-law, being a paranormal researcher, manages to bring back your spirit to this plane and needs your help to get his daughter back. So equipped with the ability to possess the body of your enemies, you set out on a quest to save her. Now this being an arcade game, it's actually much more of a setup than we get in some other instances. It is also delivered through still image cutscenes, and it actually offers two different possible endings. Overall, it's nothing amazing storyline-wise, but it gets the job done. Now if we move on to the gameplay. Now first of all, the game offers you the option to play with the original Japanese version or the translated English one. Furthermore, after selecting your language, you also have the ability to choose between a specialized console version or the original arcade port. One of the biggest differences I did find is in the console version of the game, you do have a difficulty select, and it also has some slight quality of life upgrades, like not having to deposit a coin to use a continue. However, on the other hand, the arcade version of the game does have multiplayer compatibility, which is non-existent in the console version. But overall, you're getting a very similar experience, either which one you decide to play. Now the basic gameplay is very simple. Make your way to the end of the level, beat the boss, and move on to the next one. Where the originality in the gameplay comes in is that rather than controlling your own character, you control a spirit that can take possession of any of the enemies on the screen. Once in said enemy's body, you have to adjust to their movement style and also their attack patterns. If that enemy character takes too many hits, you return to your spirit form till you can find another body. However, the more you return to your spirit form and the longer it takes you to find a body will deplete your energy bar at the top of the screen. If unfortunately, however, that energy bar does hit 0, it does mean your demise, and you'll have to take a continue if you want to keep playing. The good news, however, is that in either game mode, you have infinite continues, meaning that as long as you're willing to put in the time, this game is very approachable to everyone. As you're making your way through the level, there are multiple pickups you can find. Some will replenish your energy, other will just be for points. Also, as a sub-objective, there are 3 hidden keys throughout the levels. If you manage to find all 3 hidden keys before the end of the game, you will get the best ending possible. It's also important to note that during boss fights, the spirit bar that normally controls your spirit power actually becomes your life force. And unfortunately, each time the boss hits you, it will diminish your overall spirit capacity. Hit 0, once again you die. If you take a continue, it will be replenished in the same form you were before you died. Now overall, there isn't much more to the gameplay loop here. It's a very simple yet satisfying one. What might, however, disappoint some people is that a full run-through of the game is only about 40 minutes, with a totality of 6 levels to play through. However, as this was an arcade muncher, you'll most likely have to take multiple continues to get there. The good news is, it won't be costing you any quarters. However, at the same time, almost each playthrough of this game, you'll be using different characters, meaning that there is a huge amount of replayability here. And for anyone into that simple arcade-like experience, I think they'll be very satisfied by what they find in this game. Now if we move on to the controls. Now first of all in this game, you have the choice by moving your character by using the left joystick or the D-pad, something I always appreciate in 2D platformers. For the rest of the controls, they are actually very simple with only a 2-button setup. Obviously, there's no way for me to explain how your attacks will play out exactly because they'll vary depending on which character you're controlling at that moment. Now, in your spirit form, the left joystick or D-pad will help you move around the screen, and the attack button will have you take possession of whichever character you're touching. Now this game also comes with modern upgrades like the ability to rewind and to use save states. Although they're not part of the basic control functions, you will be able to access those using the minus button at any point in the game, which will also pause it. And the only added control option that I can think of mentioning is that if you're playing in arcade mode, pressing down on the left joystick will add a credit to your counter. Now overall, it's a very simple control setup and it works very well for this game. The only disappointing side is that there is a little bit of lack of control over your character for some of the harder platforming sections. Now the good news is there aren't too many of those precise platforming sections throughout the game, however the 3 or 4 times that it did come up caused me a bit of frustration. And also, the degree of difficulty varied a lot on which character I was controlling at the moment and what type of jump pattern they had. So minus those few frustrating moments, I would say the controls are very decent. On a side note, if you do own an arcade stick, I would definitely break it out for this one, it will enhance your experience. Now if we move on to the graphics and sound. Now graphically, this game is very true to its 90s roots, with big, chunky, and colorful sprites. And if you were a fan of that era of arcade gaming, you'll feel right at home with this game, which graphically is probably among one of the better offerings. Now added to that, this game has a very generous package of visual options, offering you many ways to play the game such as an original 4x3, full screen, even 1x1. Also multiple options of scaling and also a huge variety of shaders for anyone who wants that more CRT look. So currently I really think that visually this is probably one of the best ways to be currently experiencing this game. Now if we move over to the sound design side, well once again the sound effects are very good and the basic soundtrack is very high energy. The only downside, however, is that although I really enjoyed the basic soundtrack, it is quite repetitive. However, once again, on the bright side, since a full playthrough of the game is only about 30 or 40 minutes, you won't have time to really get fed up. For me, it really only hit me when I did multiple back-to-back playthroughs. But you know what? They pretty much stayed true to the original with the package that they delivered, and if you're a fan of arcade classics, you're going to love it. Now it's time for the verdict, and if this is one of the first reviews of mine that you're watching, my full review scale is available down below. And in the case of Avenging Spirit on the Nintendo Switch, I'm going to be giving this game a 7.5, putting it at the high end of a good game. Now for the port of a classic 90s arcade game, this version, as I said earlier, really does it justice. And it actually adds in quite a few modern amenities, as I said earlier, like the rewind function and the save states, to really make the game approachable to anybody. However, the only reason I can't give it a higher score is due to its limited appeal and short playtime. There are also those minor control issues during the more precise platforming sections that might irritate some. However, the good news once again is that they aimed at a super budget price point of only $6 for this game. And at that price, if you're a fan of arcade style gameplay and you're maybe aiming at multiple playthroughs, I definitely think this is a game you should look at picking up. So now I want to hear from all of you. Let me know if you're going to be picking up the game in the comments down below. And on the way out, don't forget that if you did like the content, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on the notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.